We'll go ahead and be ready to proceed on the trial. This is officially the case of People versus James LeBron King. We'll begin with opening statements. Are people ready to give their opening statement?
We are, Your Honor.
You may proceed.
Nice try, motherfucker. Those words, those are the defendant's words. Those were the first words out of the defendant's mouth after the fatal shot was fired that ended Sheldon Cashman's life. Mr. Cashman, he lay face down in the defendant's front lawn. He was bleeding. He had been shot in the leg. He was bruised. He was broken. There had been a struggle for possession of a .45 caliber pistol. Punches had been thrown. They had wrestled in the front lawn. Shots rang through the silent night. And ultimately, in the early morning hours of June 26, 2011, the defendant wrestled that gun free, stood over Mr. Cashman, and ended his life with a single gunshot. The defendant is charged with criminal possession of a firearm in the second degree and murder in the second degree. We, the people, we bear the burden in this case, and that burden is beyond a reasonable doubt. But it is not beyond all doubt. As you hear the testimony and evaluate the evidence, I want you to keep three questions in the back of your mind. First, did the defendant have the opportunity to fire the shot that killed Mr. Cashman? 3 houses down and across the street, there was a neighbor, Mrs. Edith Morningside. She had heard those first shots that night and exited her house and looked down and watched what happened that night. She saw the defendant stand over Mr. Cashman and saw the gun fire. The second question that I want you to ask yourself is, did the defendant intentionally fire that gun? Regarding this question, we will present a great deal of testimony and a great deal of evidence. You will hear, of course, from that neighbor, but you will also hear from Detective Wilson Mordinsky, the lead detective in this case. He will talk to you about what he saw when he arrived on the scene, and he will talk to you about a bloody shirt that he found upstairs in a closet. You will also hear from Zane Gray, a blood spatter analyst. And Zane Gray will tell you that that killing shot was fired from between a foot to a foot and a half from the back of Mr. Cashman's head. You will have the autopsy report. And that report will tell you that it was a single gunshot wound to the back of the head that ended Mr. Cashman's life. And it will tell you the trajectory of that bullet, that it did not deviate. Finally, you will be asking yourself, why? Why would the defendant pull the trigger? And insofar as we can answer that question, we will face it. So I ask you to keep this question in your mind. Did the defendant have a motive to pull the trigger that night? Regarding this question, we will introduce evidence that the defendant was jealous of what he thought was an ongoing sexual relationship between his wife and the victim in this case. And Mr. Cashman, he was not a perfect man. He had skimmed money off the top of the defendant's business. This had damaged the defendant's reputation, and it had damaged that business. At the close of trial, my co-counsel, Mr. Tutalian, he will stand before you once again, and he will talk to you about the testimony, and he will talk to you about the evidence, and he will revisit these three questions with you. And he will discuss how we have shown that in the early morning hours of June 26th, the defendant stood over Mr. Cashman as he lay face down on the ground and fired that shot. And at that time, we will ask that you return a verdict of guilty on all counts.
Thank you.